You're good? Okay. So, there's one tea plant, Carmilla sinensis. If it doesn't come from the tea plant, it's not really a tea. Calling a non-tea herb a tea is like saying we're in the United States of Canada. You're driving down the street, you're submarine. You're just using the wrong word. The reason that's important is that the tea plant always has caffeine. There's no such thing as a caffeine-free tea. So, if you want no caffeine, you want to look at other herbs or tisanes. Tisane is any infusion of plant material. So, your mint, your chamomile, your rooibos, yerba mate, ginger, those are all tisanes. Tea is a tisane of the tea plant. And the word tisane is actually older than the word tea in English. So, if it's all the one plant, the different forms of tea come from the different stages. If you think of it like a flower bud, blossom, and wilt, right? The bud of the tea leaf is white tea, the blossom of the tea leaf is green tea, the wilted tea leaf is red tea. So, those are kind of the more natural forms of tea, white, green, and red. Your English breakfast tea, your chai, your Earl Grey, those aren't actually black teas, those are red teas. Because historically, true black tea was much more expensive, but we'll get to that in a second. So, I'll start you off with a white tea. So, this is a white tea. This is silver needle. Silver needle is a very common white tea. High levels of antioxidants, low levels of caffeine. Only 5 milligrams per 8-ounce cup. That's hardly anything. Unless you're very caffeine sensitive, you won't even feel it. Now, it also has enzymes that boost the immune system, promote white blood cell growth, T cells, macrophages, antibodies, helps fight cancer, but it doesn't have a whole lot of flavor on its own. So most white teas are steamed with jasmine. Now, the way you drink a jasmine tea is you take one sip, you get a feel for the jasmine, and then on the second sip, you hold your nose, sip to swallow, and then you take a third sip regularly, because holding your nose cuts the jasmine, all you get is the flavor of the white tea. But that third sip, the jasmine enhances the flavor, so it brings out more of the flavor. So give it a try, take a sip, tell me what you think.
First
sip, regular sip. So, very jasmine, now.
Classic.
Hold your nose, take a sip. That cuts the jasmine.
I put it down.
Go ahead, if you want. Good, take a sip. Now, hold your nose, take a sip, that's it. Hot water now, right? Doesn't taste like anything, right? Now, let go and take another sip. Now it should be jasmine plus or jasmine and. Like there's more to it. Regular. So now it's got more to it now. It's jasmine with something extra.
Yeah.
The jasmine is there to bring out the flavors, like salting your meat. Drinking jasmine tea for the jasmine is like eating ribs for the barbecue sauce. Or eating pretzels for the salt. It's missing the point.
Yeah.
So, the jasmine is there to bring out the flavor because white tea, high levels of antioxidants, low levels of caffeine, enzymes that boost the immune system. It's really good for you, really good for detoxing, really good for cleansing. But I would give this tea, without the jasmine, to my Chinese students, people who lived in China their whole lives. And they go, what's this hot water you're giving me? I thought you were a tea master. Where's all the flavor? So even native Chinese may not taste much from this if there's not jasmine, if it doesn't have something to bring it out.
Okay.
Or you have a very sensitive palate. That happens too. So, that's a white tea. The natural blossom of the tea leaf is green tea. So, now I'll make you a very common green tea. This is called Iron Goddess. Iron Goddess is the daily drinking green tea in China. Yeah, sure. Yeah, throw that here if you want. Iron Goddess was everywhere. I couldn't walk into a bus stop, a store, or someone's house without running into this tea. It's very prolific. In fact, the Chinese will drink 3 8-ounce cups of this tea a day, and you go, are you a tea drinker? They'll look in the eye and go, no. In the same way that you take a multivitamin in the morning, or you take an Advil for a headache, do you consider yourself a pill popper? Same principle. Either we're pill poppers and they're tea drinkers, or we just have different ways of looking out for our health. Now, here's a very fundamental thing. Whenever you make a tea, doesn't matter whether it's whole leaf tea, loose leaf tea, broken leaf tea, tea bags, even non-tea herbs. You always want to rinse the tea leaf. That means you take the first 5 seconds of steeping and you just throw it away. Just dump it. I'll show you why. Give this a try. This is the rinse. And this is actually not the flavor of the tea. This is the flavor of the tannin. This is the defense mechanism of the plant. That common green tea flavor, right? A little bitter, a little grassy. So that is not the flavor of the just dump it, because that's all it's good for. That's how the plant protects itself. When I was in China, they'd say if a tiger attacks you, you punch it, right? Well, a plant can't do that, so it releases the tannin, and that can make the tea bitter, can cause headaches, migraines in some people, can cause upset stomach, diarrhea in some people. It's just the plant saying, leave me alone, don't eat me. By throwing away that first 5 seconds of steeping, you get rid of that. And then, you only steep for 30 seconds. No tea anywhere ever needs more than 30 seconds, because the longer you steep it, the more the tannin comes out. So this is Iron Goddess. Hey, yeah, how... 老板好啊. So, this is the actual flavor. Compare that to what you just had. This is what it actually tastes like. Instead of being bitter and grassy, I think you'll find it more floral. Not bitter, more intense. Pretty different, right? And that's the actual flavor of the tea. The longer you steep the tea, the less tea you actually taste, the more tannin you get. Because it's like, you know, if I poke you a little bit, you know, you might shrug it off. But if I keep doing it, eventually you'll start getting more aggressive. The plant reacts by releasing more tannin the more it's under stress. Even though you've pulled the leaf off the plant, it's releasing more and more of the tannin the longer you steep it, because it's just reacting. It's under stress more. So that first rinse and then 30 seconds is all you need.
Then you say 5 seconds at the beginning.
Yeah, that's it. And throw that away. And
after
then 30 seconds.
30 seconds. No more.
Yeah, and another factor is that in the Chinese tea form, you always want to reuse. So 1 tablespoon of tea leaf should be able to make 6 cups. You should be able to reuse it over and over and over again. This...
Il y a de l'eau en dessous.
Ah ouais, ok, mais parce que c'est une
This is now a red tea. This is what the English world calls black tea.
You know the landlord costume?
So,
It has the taste of the matcha.
so matcha is a green
Green
tea.
tea.
It is a green tea. It's just specifically powdered
Powder.
tencha.
Yeah.
Hello.
It's not just any powder though. You take a green tea. You take the tea plant and you grow it in the shade for 6 weeks. That makes gyokuro, the jade dew. Now, if you grind gyokuro down, that makes funmatsucha. That's a very different type of green tea powder. You grow the tea in the shade for 10 weeks, that makes tencha. And if you grind tencha down, that makes matcha. It's very specifically 10-week-old green tea. Hi there, can I help you fund a tea if you can health benefits?
Does it get rid of asthma? I'll take that.
So it depends on what the cause of the asthma is. I have a few.
We don't have anything for asthma.
Oh, we're all sold
We're
out?
sold out.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
Oh, well.
Here, try some of this. As a consolation, this is Keemun. This is known in the West as Prince of Wales tea. This is what the Queen of England drinks. Now, this is also the inspiration for Earl Grey. Earl Grey was made because it was cheaper and easier to get bergamot oranges from Italy and red tea from India than it was to get this tea from China. However, because this is the actual flavor of the tea, it's not anything that's added, it differs from person to person. Some get orange, I get lemon, some get grapefruit, some get apricot, some get sunflower seeds, some say it's smoky. Some people have said it tastes like baked potato. One girl said it tasted like steak. That's palate, that differs. But give it a try, tell me what you think. So, yeah, little orange, little lemon,
Roasted.
roasted,
Citrusy.
citrus.
Orange.
Orange?
Yeah.
See, and I just get lemon. I've been drinking this for years and I never get orange from it, but that's my palate. And palate is somewhat dependent on genetics. So, speaking of which, you're asking about the steeping time. So, let me prove to you why no tea anywhere ever needs to steep for more than 30 seconds.
Oh, take notes, guys.
So, steeping a tea for 5 minutes is like saying the way you make a good steak is you take filet mignon and put it on high heat for an hour. We all have that one friend who would say, yeah, that's a good steak. And we usually don't give them filet mignon because of that, right? Now, ladies, a guy gets handsy, you slap him, right? Well, a plant can't do that, so it releases gallic acid, a tannin, which is a chemical that is essentially a poison that won't kill you in most cases. It's kind of like how we can eat chocolate, but dogs or cats can't. We can process tannin, but if a dog or cat eats a plant that produces tannin, it'll throw up, like how dogs or cats eat grass and then throw up. So, I'm going to steep this for 30 seconds, 60 seconds, and 90 seconds, and I think you'll see the longer you steep it, the worse it gets. This is Iron Goddess, by the way. This is the daily drinking green tea in China. So think about this as like a Chinese multivitamin. Stopwatch and go. Alright, so 30 seconds is quick enough to get the essential oil out of the leaf into the water, flavor it, and make it tea. But it's too quick for the tannins to come out and make it bitter. So, this is just going to be one long steeping. I'm just going to pour a little off at 30 seconds, a little off at 60 seconds, a little off at 90 seconds. And the tannin increases after about 45 to 50 seconds, depending on the tea. So, this first one is 30 seconds. This is what the tea should taste like. You two have already had this. This is essentially what you had. Yeah, just dump it in there. Yeah. So, you'll notice it's a little floral, maybe a little gardenia, maybe a little magnolia, maybe orchid. Regardless, this is what the tea should taste like. It's not bitter. You know what? I'll have some of this. This is good tea. See, I get a little more magnolia. Most get gardenia. Some get orchid, lilac. Regardless, pretty floral, right? Yeah. Now, this is 60 seconds. This is starting to be filled with tannin. This is what the Japanese would say should be drinking because 80% of Japanese people have a tannin resistance where they don't taste the bitterness in tea. I can't drink this because this is too tannic for me. You tell me, is this bitter? If not, you have the tannin resistance. So, bitter?
No.
No?
No, I prefer the
Bitter? Bitter? Yeah, bitter? No, so not bitter for you, right?
No.
No. Bitter?
I don't like it.
Okay, no, that's okay. So, that means that you three don't have the tannin resistance, you two do. There's nothing wrong with that, that's your genetics. It's like those people who say cilantro tastes like soap. It's a genetic thing. But, did you notice how even though it wasn't bitter, it wasn't as floral?
Yeah.
It was less floral,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah, it was less flavorful. Because even if you don't taste the bitterness, the tannins are still covering up your taste buds. Now, this is 90 seconds. This is half what they tend to steep a tea bag for. This is no longer tea. This is plant slap.
What? Plant what?
Plant slap.
Plant slap.
Yeah.
So this is what you get if you steep the tea for 90 seconds. More bitter, right? So, notice how all the original flavor is gone. That's because it's covering up your taste buds. That's the tannin doing its job. That is not the flavor of the tea any more than the aluminum foil is the flavor of the burrito. Or the wrapper is the flavor of the candy bar. Now, of note, as long as you pour off that tannin water, we get rid of that plant slap, we can then re-steep the leaves, and as long as we only steep for 30 seconds, we have a nice fresh cup of tea. And that's the reason why the Chinese never drink tea bags, is because with tea bags you only get 1 to 2 cups. The standard is that you should get, per tablespoon, 6 8-ounce cups. That's the standard. The Chinese look at tea bags like, if I walked up to you and said, hey, I just got a Big Mac for $50, you think I'm not spending my money well, am I? It's the same thing. So.
I think this, I'll be back.
Okay. Absolutely. Well, here's the thing: is it's not really making a pot; it's making a bunch of tannin water. You're not actually tasting the tea at that point.
I have to think about it. This is a tea person, so she's getting an education here.
I'll prove it to you. I'll take any tea.
I believe it.
I was gonna say, I'll say this. I grew up believing that tea was a terrible bitter beverage that not even cream and sugar could save. I grew up hating tea. The reason is that my mother has tannins are a migraine trigger for her, so she can't drink red wine and she can't drink tea, or so she claims. If I throw away that first 5 seconds of steeping and then steep it for 30 seconds and then go, hey mom, have some Chinese medicine, she'll drink it and be like, oh, it's so good, it's tasty, this is better than tea. Like, so mom, how's your tea? I can't drink tea, it gives me migraines. The tannin is what gives her the migraines. The tea itself is fine. Now,
Wow.
all right, I'll ruin your world now. You've more than likely never had a black tea. If it says black tea on the box, it's probably a red tea. If you think about like a flower will bud, blossom, and wilt, right? The bud of the tea leaf is white tea, the blossom of the tea leaf is green tea, the wilted tea leaf is red tea. Your English breakfast teas, your chais, your Earl Greys, your Alabama sweet teas, those are all red teas because they're all wilted tea leaf. True black tea has to be fermented. The way you make a black tea in the traditional form is you take the green tea leaf, you press it into a cake like this, and then you let this ferment in a cave for 5 years at minimum. 5 years minimum in the traditional form. So, if it's not fermented for 5 years, it's not a black tea. The British did not want to wait 5 years for their tea, so they would get red tea, call it black, and jack up the price. And they could jack up the price because the older a black tea is, the more expensive it is. This is a 8-year-old black tea. This is $50. This cake is a standardized size. It's roughly a pound. And this standardization goes back to the old tea form. For perspective, the British tea form started around 1630. The modern Chinese tea form started in 1310. The old tea form is at the latest 1400 BC. So, this has been standardized for at least 1,000 years before Christianity. Now, one cake like this sold in Hong Kong for 1 million yuan, that's $166,000 for one of these. Partially because it was a good brand, but mainly because it was 70 years old.
Whoa.
So, true black tea appreciates in value the older it is. The British would get red tea and they could jack up the price all they wanted because black tea could be expensive. However, most have never had a true black tea, mainly because the fermentation gives it a very different flavor from what most people are used to in the West. The fermentation, I'd say, can be earthy, maybe smoky, maybe kind of alfalfa-y. A lot of people say it tastes like a barn. I get more of the earthiness. One guy said this tastes like a bad game of rugby, just a mouthful of dirt. That's his palate, though I tend to agree with that. Some people say it's almost floral. Some people say it's fishy. That's palate. But this is a true black tea.
Now it looked red when you were born.
Okay. I'll say this. This is a red tea. You can see.
Looks familiar.
Yeah, looks familiar. Yeah. This is a black tea.
So you can see.
So you can totally see. And this was not a long steeping. This was 30 seconds. If it's not ink black in 30 seconds, it's not a black tea. You can sure take your English breakfast tea and steep it for an hour and it'll get black, but that's not the tea, that's the tannin. This is the actual tea. Now, if you don't like it, I'm not going to hate on it. Because again, it is very different, and the fermentation is what gives it this flavor. However, I lost 30 pounds with this particular tea.
Drinking black tea.
I didn't change my diet. I exercise pretty regularly. But if I had a healthy breakfast, healthy lunch, healthy dinner, I would have 3 cups a day. With every fatty meal, I'd have 3 cups. So if I had a healthy breakfast, healthy lunch, healthy dinner, 3 cups a day. If I had a healthy breakfast, Chipotle for lunch, and Popeyes for dinner, I'd have 9 cups a day. I still lost 30 pounds in 5 weeks. So, give this a try. This is a true black tea. If you don't like it, I won't hate on you, but be honest, you've probably never had a true black tea.
I'm sure I have. So shouldn't that be in a vault?
No, this is only 8 years old. This is maybe $50. This is not a high-priced one. This is 12 years old from a 300-year-old tree. This is 200.
Wow.
I've had a 60-year-old black tea. It was half this size, so it was probably closer to this, 1600.
Wow.
So, that's why the British don't want to let go on the fact that they were calling it black tea because they wanted to jack up the price. They're just like, no, it's black tea, it's black tea. We call it that because of the shape of the leaves. Bullshit, you were greedy.
I never knew tea could be so expensive.
Why'd they dump all the tea in the what is that called?
The Boston Tea Party, yeah. So that was Chinese tea. And they did that because the Chinese were selling tea from an area called Wu Yishan. I've been there. In my opinion, that's the mecca for tea. But they were getting their Bohea tea, and the Dutch could bring it in for essentially $30. The British were bringing it in for $90. So the Americans are like, no, let's get our tea from the Dutch. And the British are like, hey, those are our taxes you're not paying. They enforced the Stamp Act, and they're like, well, bullshit, we're not going to do that. So they threw the $60, overpriced Chinese tea into the harbor as an act of protest. But it was all coming from China. It was just the fact that they weren't getting their money's worth for it. They're essentially jacking up the price, again, because the Dutch did know about the difference between black tea and red tea. The English didn't want to let that out.
It's like OPEC for tea.
So, there's white, green, red, black. There's actually a 5th category called oolong. Oolong is any tea that doesn't fit cleanly into white, green, red, or black. Oolong is a catch-all. So, oolong literally means black dragon. Black dragon is like black sheep. It means the weird one, the odd duck. Kinda, yeah. So, anytime you overcook a green tea, like over-oxidize, that's a green oolong. You undercook a red tea, that's a red oolong. You roast the tea, that makes a roasted oolong. That's what most in the West would recognize as oolong. This is the original oolong. This is a mixture of tea and non-tea herbs.
Oh. Thank you.
It's funny because I didn't even get it. They didn't even give me a chance. But that's the thing, is there's a lot to tea a lot of people aren't prepared for. So this is my personal coffee replacement. I've had 4 cups of coffee in my life. I've never needed coffee. This gives you all the energy, helps with circulation, inflammation, cold hands, cold feet, gets more blood downstairs, it helps the home life. That's okay. I won't hate on you. Gives you, again, all the energy of coffee, none of the crash, just a little tea magic. Now, the reason for that is that this has ginseng. Ginseng opens up blood vessels, gives you all those benefits. But medical grade ginseng, like what you're drinking, could go for $1,400 an ounce. So, this is not a good tea from the Chinese perspective, because if it was good tea, you wouldn't mix it. Instead, this is a cheap way to get your ginseng. This is a ginseng delivery system. Give us a try, tell me what you think. So, ginseng is naturally a little sweet, but also very, very rooty. They mix the green tea in, and that mellows out the rootiness, leaves the natural sweetness, also gives it a toastiness that some taste. In the end, you're losing the benefits of the green tea. Whenever you mix a tea and a non-tea, the tea bonds to it. So the tea is attacking it with its antioxidants. You lose those antioxidants. In this case, you're losing the benefits of the green tea. It's mellowing out the flavor, but you're keeping the benefits of the ginseng, and that's what the Chinese care about. So
Deborah, you still gonna steep those tea bags? I don't know now.
Now you just gotta do testing.
I'll say this. I didn't believe in the rinsing thing myself until I took a bag of Twinings English breakfast. You rinse it, or if you don't rinse it, it tastes like Lipton. You rinse it, and it's actually pretty good. There's some quinine in it. It's almost a bit citrusy. You just put your tea bag in the bottom of the cup, give it a little splash, just cover the bag, pull the bag out, throw that away, put it in again, fill it up. That is tea. Pull it out after 30 seconds, that's all you need.
Needs to reset now. I like light and sweet.
Then over steeping is not what you want. It just does, like, here, here's another red tea. This is called Phoenix.
So when it says black pico, it's not.
It's not black tea. All the Western teas are all red tea because they're wilted tea leaf. Orange pico is technically actually a grade. It's a grade of the top 3 leaves. Your PG tips, your Tetleys, all of your Western teas, those are all wilted tea leaf. It's all red tea. Now granted, no one waits to the end of the season to pick it, so what they do is they take the tea leaf and then they usually pan fry it, and that oxidizes the leaf, wilts it artificially, simply because that's more economical.
You should wear that to the bank.
Hi there, can I be funded tea and particular health benefits? Feel free to look around. You want to try anything or have any questions? Please let me know. Just
Sore throat?
sore throat? Sure, Angel.
Okay. But I'm pregnant. Is it okay for that?
Yeah, this has no caffeine. So here, this is a non-tea herb or tisane called Angel. Angel has high levels of antioxidants, no caffeine. Good for detoxing the liver, detoxing the kidneys, detoxing the bloodstream. This pulls everything out of the bloodstream but the blood. My dad was on the diabetic borderline. He had a blood sugar level of 140. And they said, look, we'll give you 2 weeks. If you can get your blood sugar from 140 to 120, you won't have to, prick your fingers, check your insulin, won't have to, do all the diabetic stuff. And he was 72 at this point. And he was like, I don't care how you do it, just get rid of the diabetes. I'm like, okay, fine. I give him 2 cups of this for 2 weeks. Didn't change his diet, didn't have him exercise anymore, just added this to his daily routine. His blood sugar went from 140 to 97. His A1C went from 7 to 4. The doctor confirmed that. However, this also has antimicrobial properties, so it's also good for sore throats, colds, cleansing the kidneys, cleansing the liver, cleansing the lungs. The biggest issue with this is that no one agrees on what it tastes like, depending on your palate. Some people say this tastes like wildflowers. My dad said this tastes like fresh cut grass. He called it the long clipping tea. Some people say this tastes like hot cucumber water. And a girl from Mississippi sat over there and said, this tastes like death.
Huh.
That's palate.
Wow.
What kind of household does she live in?
I don't know, but my understanding is that she drank a lot of Mississippi sweet tea, so
Oh,
that was
no.
probably a factor.
Oh, just sugar.
So the cream and the sugar takes away all the
Kills all the benefits. You might as well just have a hot cup of milk at that point. Putting milk in your tea is like putting ketchup on filet mignon. Don't.
It's not a.
Now, if you want a milky tea, there are other options. This is milk oolong. This is actually the Iron Goddess, but they water it with a combination of milk, soybeans, and honey, and that gives it a natural milkiness. Good for you. Alright, so this is milk oolong. So let's say that you had that Iron Goddess and you're like, oh, those are the health benefits I'm looking for, but I can't drink 3 cups of that a day. I'd get sick of it. Okay, the tea form is meant to find something that you can drink 3 cups a day and you won't get sick of it with the health benefits you need. This is an example of that. So, by the way, whenever you make a tea, you always want to take the first 5 seconds of steeping and throw it away. Just to prove a point. Here's a little bit of the rinse. Do you guys want in on this? You believe me? So, you'll notice it's a little milky, but this is all this is good for. Now, you can still taste that texture, right? That bitterness, that texture on the tongue, right? Now wait for it, because if you like that, you'll love this. Because that's not the flavor of the tea. That is the flavor of the tannin, the defense mechanism of the plant. This is now the true flavor of the tea. Now it should be not bitter, more milky, maybe even more floral on top of it.
So the first one was 5 minutes,
5 seconds.
5 seconds, and this one was
30.
30.
Sens. Tu sens le
He's
lait.
saying it should taste better now.
If it doesn't, I don't know what you did.
It's
So,
it's
more milky,
Amazing.
smells
more smooth, more silky. Not bitter, right? Better, not bitter, right? And that's true for all teas. I've never found a tea that needs to steep for more than 30 seconds, and I've never found a tea that was better unrinsed. The one exception to that is matcha, because it's a powder, you rinse it, you're pouring out the tea. It's not that you shouldn't rinse it, it's that you can't. So that is a green oolong, because it's a green tea that they water with milk, well, not exactly mixed, but they water it with milk, soybeans, and honey. The plant eats the sugars in the soybeans and the milk, and then like you eat too much garlic, it comes out your pores. The milk comes out the pores of the tea plant. They then just sort of overcook it to bring out that flavor, really make it pop. By overcooking it, that makes it a green oolong. Any other questions? Anything else you want to try?
How long have you been doing this?
Chinese tea specifically, about 8 years. Working here, about 3 years. Tea in general, 16 years? 2004, so
14.
14 years.
I feel like something really good. I think that's because I crave sugar.
Here.
Yeah, I do actually. Sounds good.
Can you try the lychee one?
Here, try this first.
He's got it in mind.
Yeah, right?
So here's the thing. Sure, I can make you the lychee. The lychee is a training wheel tea. It's how kids learn to make tea. It's not to say that it's bad, but it's kind of like after a long, hard day at work, you want to play in a sandbox. Don't you have better things to do with your time? So the level of sass in this room just went from here to here. This is the Blue People ginseng again. Old ginseng? So that
That's
doesn't-
ginseng.
All right.
Favorite. Really?
So that's the tea that got me through college. I've had 4 cups of coffee in my life because of that tea. All right, so just keep in mind, one of the sweetest things on the planet is lead. So
Yeah.
Paint chips are fantastic for lifestyle.
Oh my god.
and that's why.
Oh my god.
So
That was a good tea though.
this is how you teach your children the 3 fundamentals of tea. 1, don't use boiling water. 2, never steep for more than 30 seconds. And 3, always rinse. Always throw away that first 5 seconds. From there, you then get into the more advanced concepts of you want a different flavor, drink a different tea. You should get at least 6 cups per tablespoon. And putting anything in your tea is like putting ketchup on filet mignon.
So what? I was always taught 3 minutes steeping. How come 30 seconds steeping?
So,
Yes.
if I tell you the way you make a good steak is you take filet mignon and put it on high heat for an hour.
Oh yeah, that's perfect. Yeah.
That's what a 5-minute cup of tea is.
Wow.
And it's essentially that we all have that one friend who'd be like, yeah, that's how you make a good steak, right? We also don't give them the good steak for that reason, right?
I'm getting this tea better. It tastes really good. This is really
Les gars
good.
qui utilisent un compagnie français, les filets mignons, c'est le bout du couteau.
So this is the
Ça, c'était
lychee
bon.
black.
Ça, non, c'est le litchi, ça. Non, le litchi.
So this is actually properly a red tea, because it's wilted tea leaf. However, the Western world consistently calls its red tea black tea.
That one, those still fun.
How much is this?
That one's 12.
Wait, what's the jasmine silver?
So jasmine silver needle is a white tea, the silver needle, that they steam with jasmine because white teas in general don't have a whole lot of flavor. You want to try it?
Yeah.